How do you rank the top 5 wide receivers, Joe?
I thought this was going to be an easy question until I really started to dive into it again, because I've been in a baseball, mudslide for the last, 4 weeks. I've got Lamb at the top, which I think is probably the easy consensus thing. I just can't quit MarrChase. I just want Joe Burrow healthy for a whole season with MarrChase. That's all I want for Christmas. If I could just get that, I'd be very excited. I've got Chase 2. It is really hard to not right now put Tyreek Hill 3. I have some concerns about Tua. I have some concerns about, at a certain point too, when does the cheetah lose a step? Because if he does, things maybe go in a different direction, but the offense has been so good. They've been so elite. They're so fast paced. Like, I just feel like it can sustain one more year. I have Jefferson at 4, which hurts my soul to have him at 4. But I've got to say, well, what is the quarterback situation? I don't know. We get that definitive in a couple weeks from now. We'll have a better idea what that looks like. Then maybe he could possibly move up. But right now he's holding strong at 4. But maybe the best value at 5 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And if you're drafting in the middle of, the first round, I don't know how you don't just love getting him at like 7 or 8. I think that's a fantastic way every week to just put a crap ton of points in your lineup. And I think Amon-Ra does not get enough credit still. The fact that he's top 5 in consensus, but for some reason, I don't feel like anybody talks about him as elite. And I think that's just wrong.
I'm surprised Joe's feed didn't cut off there by Thomas putting Jefferson.
Oh yeah, Thomas.
It hurt me. I said it hurt my soul. I mean, I did say I'm the Jefferson wide receiver 1 guy. I bet on him a couple of years ago for AP Player of the Year at 12-1, and it hit that year. Believe me, I love me some Justin Jefferson. He has put money in my pockets. But let's be honest, if it's a JJ McCarthy, whoever it might be, we have to kind of wait and see a little bit, how good that might be able to be. And who knows, maybe I'll change my 2, maybe he jumps to 3, or maybe even 2. We'll find out.
All right. So it was Lamb, Chase, Tyreek, Jefferson, St. Brown.
Correct.
Man, you all have Lamb number 1. It's interesting.
We love Lamb.
What's the Fantasy Pros consensus?
Consensus is Lamb as well. And I mean, how do you not put a guy number 1 in an offense where now they're going to throw the football? He had 181 targets last year. I mean, even if it regresses to 151 or 161, I mean, how do you not get excited about that? 14 touchdowns. Look, is it going to be hard to repeat? Probably, but it's not impossible. And I think a lot of us in the fantasy analyst community have been waiting for this. Like, we keep saying, yeah, this is the Lamb breakout. This is the Lamb breakout. Now we finally got it. And now we're going to piss and moan and get, crappy about it. Like, well, maybe he's not number 1. No, stop self-loathing. We actually got it. It finally happened. Let's enjoy it. Let's put him at number 1 and not overthink it for once.
I don't think he's getting necessarily more targets than Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was on pace for 182 targets. Lamb had 181. Tyreek Hill missed 1 game. He left 1 game early as well. I didn't factor that in. Just a 17-game pace based on his 16 games. In 2022, he was on pace for 173 targets with a healthy Tua. He's my number 1 right now. I guess it's not really much of a conversation and nothing interesting if all 3 of you just agree. So I'm just going to say that Tyreek Hill is my number 1. I'm not worried about him getting old. He's 30 years old. That's fine. For an elite wide receiver, they usually perform very well at age 30, like Devontae Adams did. So that's not a concern for me. I know that they want more targets. I know that the Dolphins want more players who can make plays. They don't want it to just be the Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle show. Whether that's a tight end or a receiver, I think they're going to invest in that in the draft. But Tyreek Hill is just so damn good. And
so do you have more faith in do you have more faith in the Dolphins coaching staff to get him that, or more faith in Dak Prescott to execute with CeeDee Lamb? I think that's the question. I think you ask yourself of who's
equal faith.
Okay. Because my faith in Tua is not exactly huge. It's not that he wasn't good last year, but I don't know.
Lamb had never done this before, and Tyreek Hill has. True. So Lamb, I think, is really the only one that, and maybe you could say Chase has never really done it.
I mean, you could also say the same thing when Justin Jefferson did it for the first time. I mean, there's going to be a first for everything. And then
Justin Jefferson was, I'm thinking off the top of my head, I'm thinking a lot better than CeeDee Lamb in 2022, right?
Well, he was in 2022, Jefferson was the 1. So right. He was the wide receiver 1. But I mean, in 2022, CeeDee Lamb, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. I'm looking at it right now. Justin Jefferson in 2022, 1,800 yards, 9 touchdowns. So they had the same amount of touchdowns, ironically, but 184 targets for Jefferson, and in Lamb that year, 156.
But Adam, you say it's easy to say because you're saying because we're saying Lamb is number one. We just had a draft where Tyreek Hill went as the first receiver off the board. If people are comfortable with the Vikings quarterback situation, Jefferson will get right there. Joe said it. If Joe Burrow's healthy and maybe they trade T. Higgins, even without trading T. Higgins, there are going to be some people that might take MarrChase first or over one of these other two guys. To me, it's the most fascinating decision that a fantasy manager has to make starting at number 2 overall. Because if you're not going to take Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson, you're going to take one of these receivers, and you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. I don't think that there's a lot of flaws with these guys. You can certainly nitpick them. Tyreek at 30, like Joe said, if he loses a step, quarterback situation for Jefferson, Burrow, et cetera, et cetera. But these 4 guys, and again, not to disrespect Amara St. Brown, I just don't think he's getting drafted ahead of these guys. So for any of these 4, it's such a fascinating decision. But really, I mean, again, extend it to what the Drake London conversation. It's the receivers past this group too. When do you take them? How much faith do you have in them? Can Puka do it again? Can AJ Brown overcome last year's second half struggles? Can Garrett Wilson and Drake London ascend to these heights? Who even is in the back end of the top 12 wide receivers? Because Joe gave 5 names of guys that could be in those 2 or 3 spots. So it's a very, very fascinating decision with the top 12 wide receivers this year.
Jamie, do you think that like Amon-Ra would be in salary cap drafts easily always less than those guys?
Yes.
So does that make him a better return on investment when you're trying to fill out an entire lineup?
Absolutely.